Hey up. Right, we're officially scraping the bottom of the barrel now with this third and longest lockdown so far. And desperate times call for desperate measures, so what I thought I would do today is something a little bit different. And that is to put together a pretty accurate estimate of what a Royal Enfield Interceptor 650 costs to run for an entire year. Now obviously there are a lot of variables here because different people do different mileage, so they're going to use different amounts of fuel. And depending on the mileage, people might have to have the bike serviced twice. It can also affect your insurance because insurance companies nowadays tend to quote you according to your projected mileage per year. But what I'm aiming to do is put together a sort of comprehensive table of costs. So depending on the mileage you intend to do, you can work out pretty accurately what it's going to cost you to run an Interceptor, or for that matter, a Continental GT650, because they're both basically the same bikes. Now before we get started properly, I would like to ask you all a big favour. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like. And I would also be obliged, if you're not a subscriber, if you press that subscriber button, press the notification bell and ensure that your notifications are enabled. That way you'll be alerted whenever I upload a new video. It's absolutely free and you can unsubscribe at any time. Now, first up, we've got insurance, which obviously is a variable. It's going to vary according to how long you've been riding, how long you've held a licence, and of course which company you end up insuring with. I always go for fully comprehensive insurance, but I don't add any bits on like legal cover and, covering your leathers, stuff like that. I just don't see the point. Now, I paid £121 to insure the Interceptor for a year. I opted for a 6,000 mile annual mileage, no voluntary excess, with the mandatory excess being £100. But like I said, there are a lot of variables when it comes to insurance, so ideally if you're thinking of buying an Interceptor or a Continental GT, ring around or go on the internet as you do nowadays and get a quote to ascertain exactly what it's going to cost you before jumping in. Now next up, obviously if you live in the UK, you're going to have to pay vehicle excise duty. The Interceptor 650 obviously is over 600cc, so that's going to set you back £93 a year. Now, every time I mention vehicle excise duty in a video, someone always jumps in on the comments and explains to me that it's not called that anymore, it's called something else. I can't remember what they keep telling me. It really doesn't matter. It still costs £93 a year, and the sky's not going to fall in on me if I give it the wrong title. So please, there's no need to jump in on the comments section and correct me on that. I think everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about. Right, so if you live in the UK, those two are your legal payments. It's a legal requirement to have a suitable level of insurance and pay your vehicle excise duty before you're allowed on the road. Now, I don't know what the legal situation is in other countries. I would imagine in most countries you need insurance. Whether you have to pay vehicle tax or not, I don't know. I will do a breakdown at the end of this video so that you can deduct the items that don't apply to you. Next up, servicing. Now, I service all my own bikes, so for me this is exceedingly cheap. Servicing the Interceptor is child's play. And I did moot in my early days with this bike that Royal Enfield had specifically designed this bike to be user serviced. Obviously, if you opt to have your bike serviced by your dealership, the cost is going to be significantly more. And going by the comments I've received over the last year and a half, servicing at a dealership can cost you anything from £140 to almost £300. The service interval for a full oil change, tappets, adjusting, etc. is 6,000 miles, with an interim check every 3,000 miles, which is basically just a pre-ride check. In fact, I'm not entirely sure why Royal Enfield have put that in the service book. It must be a domestic market thing. Now, I like to use good quality oil. Also, in the case of this particular bike so far, I've used the OEM oil filter. At an oil and filter change, the Interceptor requires round about 3 litres, or maybe just over 3 litres, 3.1 litres. That depends on how successful you are at draining every last drop out of the engine. Now, the brand of oil that you use and the place that you buy it from obviously are going to make a difference as to how much you actually pay for it. I'm basing the cost on last time I bought a 4 litre can of Silkoline's full synthetic ester-based oil, and I've calculated the price to be around about £35. An OEM Royal Enfield filter, £20, and then I've allowed about £2, which I think is rather generous, for sealants and replacement crush washers, which sets the cost for a DIY mechanic at around £57 for a full annual service. Now, if you're one of those people that do an awful lot of miles and you're going to exceed that 6,000 miles mark per year, obviously you're going to have to double that. And you're probably going to have to do the same with other consumables, the main one being chain lube. Now, 1 can of chain lube and 1 can of chain cleaner generally last me about a year per bike, with the chain requiring relubrication about every 400 miles. You can probably get away with cleaning it about every 1,000 miles, but I always found I tend to use quite a lot of chain cleaner each time I clean it compared to the amount of chain lube that I use. So a can of each at around about £11 each sets those consumables at around £22 a year. Now, obviously, if you're having your bike dealer serviced, your general chain maintenance isn't going to be included in the price of that dealer service, although they may or may not adjust, clean and lube your chain while it's in. But you're still going to have to maintain your chain between services, so you're still going to need to add that amount to your normal dealer servicing costs. So for a DIY servicing regime, you're looking at about a total of £79 a year, providing you're staying within the 6,000 mile service intervals. Or should I say, providing you're not exceeding those 6,000 mile service intervals with your mileage. Now, just a quick word about DIY servicing, because this is a question I get asked daily, even though I have covered it substantially in other videos. In the UK and in Europe, providing the servicing has been carried out correctly and within the specifications of the manufacturer, it cannot by law void your warranty if you don't have it done at a dealership. Some countries might not have this protection in place for consumers. It's up to you to check what your local laws are. I know in certain states in the US there are some ongoing court battles for the right to repair. It's a big thing worldwide now. Just retain receipts for oil and filters, etc., so that you can prove that you have carried the work out. Maybe take some photographs as you go along, and you are legally covered despite what your local dealership might tell you. It's not a new thing here in the UK, it's been enforced since 2013, and I will not be responding to questions about it in the comments section on this video. Right, and finally we have fuel usage during the course of a year. Now, okay, this is like asking how long a piece of string is. This does depend wholly on your style of riding, the prices of your local petrol, and of course how many miles you cover yearly. And what has made it especially difficult, of course, is the fact that last year fuel prices, especially here in the UK, were artificially depressed through overproduction and lack of demand. In fact, at one point I think it reached 99 pence per litre, which I haven't seen since the late 1990s. And another big factor is riding style. Now, I generally speaking managed to coax 82 to 85 miles per imperial gallon out of the Interceptor, yet I've had some people report to me they're only getting about 75. So what I've done is I've worked out the average, and I've calculated it in litres because that is pretty much an international measurement. I've settled on an average of 80 miles per imperial gallon, and I've based the cost on current UK prices, which is about £1.22 per litre at the moment. Right, I'm not the world's best mathematician, but according to my calculations, 1,000 miles worth of travel, or 1,609 kilometres, will use approximately 56.26 litres of fuel. Now, you may have to add your local geographical fuel prices to this formula, but at £1.22 per litre UK prices at the moment, that will cost you approximately £68.62 per 1,000 miles, or 1,609 kilometres. So to get an idea of annual cost, all you need to do is multiply that by how many thousands of miles or kilometres that you cover annually. So, just to recap, legal expenses. For me, my insurance cost me £121, fully comprehensive insurance with no additional extras. And standard road tax here in the UK for this bike is £93, which gives you a total in legal costs of 214 of your Great British pounds. And just to recap on the servicing costs and consumables for a year, and don't forget, this is based on a DIY servicing it yourself. So self-servicing for a year, that's 6,000 mile interval. On average, your oil, your filter, your washers and sealant, and of course your chain cleaner and chain lube should set you back £79 all in. Obviously, if you're not servicing it yourself, you should disregard these values, and from what I can gather, that can cost you up to £300. But don't forget, you're still going to have to add your chain lube and chain cleaner onto that figure that you get by servicing it at a garage. So, as an example, if you cover the full 6,000 miles a year, which equates to 9,654 kilometres a year, to include your UK legal costs, DIY servicing costs, and the amount of fuel that you will use, it will come to approximately £704.72. Now, I must confess, this video actually made more sense in my head than when it did when I actually got down to making it, but it was too late by then to sort of do anything different. This is what it would cost me to run the bike for a year. Obviously, there are variables that you need to take into account and add expenses or deduct expenses according to whether you're servicing it yourself or at your dealership. And of course the amount of miles you're doing, the cost of the insurance to you, etc. But it will give you the tools to calculate, if you're looking at buying either of these two model bikes, approximately what it might cost you to run. So in that respect, I hope it's going to prove useful to some people. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video, and in doing so, supporting this channel. I really do appreciate it. I am, of course, going to be back next week, so until then, if you're riding, please ride safely, and I'll see you soon.